Salam əziz dinləyicilər, xoş gördük sizi. Bugünkü tədbirimiz bizim nəzərdə tutduğumuz Publish with a Publisher tədbirlər seriyasından olan ilk tədbirimizdir və biz bu tədbir çərçivəsində sizə dünyanın müxtəlif ölkələrində olan publisherlara belə deyək, onları sizə təqdim edəcəyik və sizin yaratdığınız oyunları müxtəlif publisherlarla necə publish etmək olar, ümumiyyətlə bu proses necə baş verir, bu haqda istəyirik ki, sizə ətraflı məlumat verək. Və bizim ilk qonağımız Miniclip şirkətindən Nahida Nuridir. Və bizim bugünkü söhbətimiz ingilis dilində olacaq və Nahida xanım söz təqdim edəcək. Hello Nahida, how are you? Good evening.
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you so much. I just introduced you. Thank you so much for accepting our offer and for being our first guest in this series of events. And I would like to give the floor to you so that you can do your presentation.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me, and hello to everyone that's watching. So I will share my screen. Okay, just confirming that you're able to see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Okay, all right, perfect. I went quiet for a second. Okay, well, so hi everyone. I'm Nahida. I'm a senior BD business development manager at Miniclip. I've been with Miniclip for close to 6 years now. Mostly, I focus on finding great games, great studios to work with, whether it's around publishing, co-development, or strategic partnerships. Since the very beginning, my job has been to find these games and studios. So together with my team, I manage the process from initial discussions with developers to negotiating and signing the agreement, to the handover to our product teams and any other internal teams. After this, I continue to stay in close touch with our developer partners to manage the relationship. In this presentation, I'll talk you through what a publishing partnership with Miniclip can look like. So, Miniclip, a quick introduction to who we are. Miniclip's been around for 20 years now. Historically, we've been known for publishing web games on miniclip.com, but for the last 10 years, we've been heavily focused on the mobile platform. Today, I would say our business is around 95% on mobile. In the last 10 years, across our mobile games, we've generated over 3 billion downloads, and we're continuing to grow year by year. In terms of the company size, we are just under 1,000 people across 13 different offices. I'm based in the London office, which is our only non-development studio. So we focus on the commercial parts, legal and finance parts of the business. So our portfolio of games, at Miniclip, we develop our own games in-house. We also work with partners to co-develop games and publish those. And we also work on games that are ready to go to market or are already out in the market. We're pretty agnostic as to where the game comes from, as long as it's engaging and fits our product strategy. And our product strategy is free-to-play, casual to mid-core games. Some of our biggest titles are 8-Ball Pool. We celebrated its 10th year anniversary this year, so that was a very exciting time for us. The game is, again, growing year by year, continuing to hit the top charts. Some of our other games you might know are Agario, Agar.io, as some people might hear it, Ultimate Golf, Sniper Strike, Headball 2, and Bubble Shooter. Across all of our games, we have built our user base of 60 million daily active users and about 250 million monthly active users. Our core players are aged 18 to 35 and slightly skewed more to the male audience. But overall, we like to create games that are that cater to everyone, no matter what your age, gender, taste. We like to have games that anyone can pick up and intuitively know how to play that game. So a bit about our market positioning. We're incredibly proud to be a leading mobile games publisher in 2021 so far. If you exclude pure hyper-casual publishers, then we are number 2 right after Outfit 7 and amongst some, incredible and notable publishers out there like OneSoft, EA, Playrix. In the sports category alone, we are the number 1 publisher, which is our main area of expertise and specialization, and one that we are planning to continue to grow in through our new releases. So before I go into what a publishing partnership would look like with Miniclip, I want to first discuss what exactly the role of a publisher is versus a developer. When it comes to publisher responsibilities, it can really vary, but ultimately the role of a publisher is to essentially take your games to market, distribute your games, make sure people are actually downloading and playing your games. An effective publisher would go beyond this core responsibility and provide additional services to allow you to focus on your game development, whilst the publisher takes all the admin work off your table. Here in this slide, I've listed out a number of different responsibilities. Like I said, different publishers have different services that they offer. In this case, I am drawing on Miniclip as an example. The first is distribution. So this is through marketing for your game, as well as tapping into the publisher's existing player network, which in Miniclip's case, it's our 60 million DAU. We would distribute your game into our network through cross-promotion within some of our biggest games like Agar.io, 8-Ball Pool, Baseball Clash, and so on. The other responsibility, which is not always required or offered by a publisher, but is quite common, is funding. So this could be funding to help you with your development, and it's also funding to unlock marketing budgets. And the other service is relationships, which really take time to build and manage. And with these relationships, it's platform relationships, so Apple and Google, which is quite key in securing publishing, managing any licensing or brand partnerships, and also players. That's a relationship. So customer service, it's critical to ensure that you're on top of it, and community management. Essentially, all of these are managed by the publisher. The other service also is knowledge sharing. At Miniclip, we are, we're in a good position because we are a developer ourselves. So we know the pains of designing, developing, and taking a game to market. So when it comes to game design support, we are able to offer that. Similarly, there are many other publishers out there who have this knowledge and would offer it as part of a partnership. In addition to all of these, there's also technical support. So in some cases, publishers have proprietary technology, their own SDKs that you can use, which is what we do at Miniclip. We offer these in any partnership deals that we work in. And also there's the technical support where we act as a consultant or advisor in helping you to optimize your current tech stack. Beyond all of this, there's more of the admin work that really you as a developer shouldn't be focusing on. It's distracting you from making a great game. That's where we come in. So there's finance, legal, and the last one, business intelligence, which I would say is very key and definitely one to look out for, and one that I find in my discussions not enough developers do probe or ask about. So business intelligence, as the publisher should be able to exchange knowledge and share with you reports on how your game is performing, or how the other games in the market are performing against a specific benchmark. And so the role of a developer. So the role of a developer compared to a publisher is quite simple. Essentially, you need to manage the live operations. Before live ops, there's the development. You get to global launch, and then it's all about sustaining that game, making sure that players return to that game every day, and that's through live operations. So you're doing updates, fixes, you're offering new features, and you're also offering in-game events. And a lot of this, a publisher would be able to work with you, collaborate, feed you performance reports so that you know what's working, what isn't working. And in the case of Miniclip as a publisher, we tend to work very, hand in hand in what features to add, what time-limited events to add based on our experience, our market research, and the data that we receive in the game. So some of the key things to point out, we know what a developer does, we know what a publisher does, but how do you find that right publisher fit? There are many publishers out there, and they all offer unique services, different, levels of support. I would say these 5 things that I'll talk through are very key. So when you are looking, around for a publisher, definitely keep these in mind. The first is audience fit. Does the publisher have the right audience for your game? Do they have that existing user base, or do they have an understanding of that user base if they don't already have it? For instance, a publisher might be pivoting to a new category. The other is product expertise. Does the publisher have an understanding of that product? Again, look at their portfolio of games and you'll see what kind of games they have published. And there's also marketing expertise and budget. And there are two elements to this. There's one, having the marketing budget, and secondly, knowing how to effectively use that budget. In today's market, it's getting more and more expensive to buy users. So understanding in how to buy users for cheaper, that's key in scaling your game beyond just relying on organic traffic. And then there's also support. So you want to make sure that the publisher, they meet your expectations when it comes to the level of support that you need. It's very key to have this kind of discussion early on to make sure, again, that the expectations are aligned. At Miniclip, we work with a variety of partners, and each of these partners have different needs when it comes to the level of support. There are some who need minimal support, and there are some who require more support, so we work with them on a day-to-day basis. We, as a publisher, we assess all of this when we're very early on when we're looking at the game. Equally, a developer should always, ask these questions and have an understanding of what the publisher's style is. Are they quite hands-off? They put the game out in the market and, sit back and see how it performs, or are they, there continuously looking at new ideas, providing support to you? All of this, you should be able to, have a clear understanding early on. And then lastly, there's that culture fit. So I think this point is very important, and sometimes it's overlooked when you're looking at some other aspects of the partnership, like product expertise and marketing budget. But I think it's important to know what the publisher's values are, how they approach success and failure, because both of these things to some extent will happen in a long-term partnership. So publishing with Miniclip. Now I'll talk to you a bit about how it would look. So what a publishing partnership with Miniclip would look like. Firstly, Miniclip Values. In the previous slide, I discussed about having an understanding of the company's culture, how they approach success and failure. So at Miniclip, we have 4 core values that we encourage everyone at Miniclip to practice, as well as our partners on a day-to-day basis. We aim to be professionally playful. So although we're a big company and we're continuing to grow in size and market position, we want to retain this culture of being professional yet playful in our approach, and just generally around the office. After all, we are in the creative gaming industry, so playfulness is just part of what we do. And then there's Dare to be Different and Entrepreneurial and Smart, which I like to group together because it captures exactly our approach to work. We encourage our colleagues and our partners to make bold moves and experiment, whether it's at small scale. So for instance, we run game jam sessions, we run innovation sessions to stimulate creativity, but also on a much bigger level. So in 2019, for example, when the web-based industry, the industry that Miniclip was in, everyone was solely focused on web-based games, and at that time Miniclip made the bold decision to pivot to mobile, which required, it had a lot of risk associated with it, but ultimately that bold move worked out. It's helped us to get to where we are today. And then lastly, there's modest and authentic. And this is a value that, again, we try to practice every day. At Miniclip, we have this safe space so that each one of us can come in and be our authentic selves. And we also try to remain modest in our partnerships. We know that we don't know everything. We know that we know the things we do know, which we would share with our partners, and we expect to equally learn from our partners. And then now going a bit deeper into the publishing partnerships with Miniclip. So there are two types. There's the co-development and publishing, and there's external games publishing. In co-development, either Miniclip comes up with the idea and we go out there and seek partners, or a partner pitches an idea to us. Usually what we require is at least a prototype or a demo, just a playable build to get a sense of the core game loop. In this case, typically we fully fund the development or partially fund the development, and typically, again, it takes around 12 to 18 months from signing up to a global launch, but this can really vary depending on the size of the project. And then there's external games publishing. So this is when we see a game or we get pitched a game that's almost ready to be launched, or it's already out in the market. Again, if the game is good, we really don't care where it's coming from. And in this case, with external games publishing, from signing to global launch, it could take 3 to 6 months, but again, it can really vary. So we've had some games that have taken 3 months, and some games that we're still in the process of preparing for a global launch. Although we have these two approaches, we don't have a template partnership model. In some cases, our developer partners think that a game is ready. When they pitch the game to us, they think it's ready to launch. But when we take a look, we have a lot of ideas in how we could improve the build, what changes we can make so that when we do launch, the game has its best chance to really compete in the market. So I have this arrow here, and really it's to show, it's a spectrum going from co-development to external games publishing. And each game, it really depends on where it falls in that spectrum, depending on what it needs and what the partner and Miniclip decide to do with it. So now I'll talk about a case study, Ultimate Golf, which is external games publishing. This is in collaboration with our developer partner called Hip Games, who are based in the US. So prior to launching this game, we advised on several different improvements using our knowledge and playbook on our previous PvP sport games. Our technical teams worked very closely with our developer partner to optimize the back end, since it's real-time multiplayer game. And we also made some slight UI changes before we launched. On launch, I'm very happy to say that we received #1 position in the sports category in over 50 countries, including the US, which is our key market for this game. And also in preparation for that launch, we ran what we call our go-to market strategy. And this typically involves store featuring, cross-promotion within our games. As you can see here, we ran cross-promotion within 8-Ball Pool and Football Strike. Beyond just running a cross-promotion downloads link, we made a lot more deeper into engagement with Ultimate Golf by offering Ultimate Golf branded pool queue and 8-Ball Pool, and Ultimate Golf branded bundles and Football Strike, because we know this really works with our players. So that's the cross promotion. And then we also run a performance marketing. In this case, we supported Ultimate Golf with a 7-figure UA budget for launch. And we try to do any other type of marketing that we can do around it. And beyond global launch, we continue to work with our partner, in this case, Hip Games, on live operations. So live operations is something that we expect our partners to lead. But again, like I mentioned earlier on, this is something that we're happy to do very hand in hand, especially if it's a game that really fits our experience, a PvP sport games, competitive. This here, I have an example of a season pass feature that we advised our partner to include in the game. Initially, our partner was a bit hesitant, but based on our experience in 8-Ball Pool and Golf Battle, which we released season pass into a year before, we knew this would be a very successful game mode. So together with Hip Games, we launched it in Ultimate Golf earlier this year. And as you can see in the graph, it's been a pretty big success. And beyond just offering new features, we also like to do time-limited in-game events. Here I have several examples of the type of events that we've done. And this is, pure collaboration between Miniclip and our partner. So really Miniclip's job is to make sure everything is in place. We manage the outreach, negotiations, relationship management, marketing, whilst our partner just needs to make sure that the tournament or event is running smoothly. So what we did in August this year, we ran a time-limited 1-week only event in Ultimate Golf in collaboration with Child Help Charity. We featured 12 pretty well-known celebrities in the US, including Alice Cooper, to come in and live stream our game against thousands of players, and try to raise as much money for charity, for donations. And I am pleased to say that we generated $250,000, which went straight to Child Help Charity. As well as, doing this for a great cause, we were also able to really allow our players to come in and, compete against celebrities they might know, and generally just have fun competing against one another for a good cause. And beyond these kind of time-limited events, we're also working very closely to gain the licensing rights for real golf courses around the world, so that we can feature it in the game. We do this on a monthly basis. So again, we work very closely together to make sure that we're constantly offering new content for our players in order to really retain the players and make sure that this is a game that we can run for many more years to come. And that's about it. So I kind of went through fast, I think, but I guess that leaves us open for more discussions and, discussions around questions that I could answer.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Nahid. It was very interesting. So we have some questions from the audiences that I want to go over them one by one. So you've mentioned like 2 types of partnerships that you do with the studios, the way you work with them. I mean, two types of partnership models. In the first one, it was co-development and publishing, and the next one was external games publishing. So, I mean, you went into details on that, but I just want to come back again to that one, and so that the studios have a clear understanding of it. So, for example, if a studio is developing a mobile game and they want to publish their games with you, what would be the step-by-step process for that? I mean, what are the things that are required from the studio to be eligible to publish their games with you?
So our process is quite simple in that we have an early discussion. So, someone like myself or anyone in my team would jump on a call, get a good understanding of your game, your plans for the game, the team. We're very interested in learning who you are, what your background is. And then, of course, we would need a playable build of the game, whether it's launched or not launched. Typically, developers share with us a test flight build or an APK. And if the game has already been tested in any way, so it might be in soft launch or technical testing or early access, we would require the KPIs just so that when we take it internally and we evaluate, we're able to really look at the KPIs and look at the game build and look at your roadmap and see, based on everything that we have, what is working, what, we can, because we are developers ourselves, we understand when we look at a build, it's not the final build, and based on your roadmap, we can imagine certain features and how that could impact the current KPIs. So what we would do is take it and present it to our internal stakeholders, get their feedback, and really at this point where the question that we're answering is this the right game for us? Is this one that we can successfully publish and, really scale? If it's not, then why is that? And these are the questions that typically we would discuss internally. And then we come back. If it is one that we can publish, that's when we would, dive in a bit deeper, connect you to our product team so that you can have much deeper product-led discussions. And then after this, we would discuss commercial terms around the partnership, and take it from there. Once it's signed, we would do the usual process of running a marketing test, running a technical soft launch, then doing soft launch, and then going on to global launch. And then we always say that's when the real work begins, once it's globally launched.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the answer. And I also noticed that actually my next question is about the game idea. So you know that it's kind of hard to come up with the idea that can become a hit. So that's one thing that studios are usually struggling with. So you mentioned that in your co-development partnership, publishing partnership model, you actually discuss the ideas with the studios and you supervise them on that. But if it's a like external games partnership model, I mean, how would that work in terms of getting an idea? I mean, I know that publishers have tons of data, and they know, like, by just looking at the idea, they know that if this idea has a potential or not, whereas studios don't have this information. So how would that work in terms of if a studio wants to partner with you, but they have they're not sure if their idea is good enough to develop a game on it. So what would be your role as a publisher in that? I mean, do you help them with the idea, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we can help, but really when we do get pitched, we want the developer to firstly be confident in the idea that they are pitching. It might not be the complete idea. They might have an idea of what the core gameplay would be, who the audience is, what monetization could look like. So we're not expecting a pitch perfect, a game design document, but we would expect, the developer initially to be confident in that idea. And then, of course, when we take a look, we can also share our thoughts and let the developer know whether this is right for Miniclip, whether we are the right publisher for it, whether we have the expertise to be that partner to co-develop before we even get to publishing. And just to also be clear, at Miniclip, when we do explore co-development ideas, especially for ideas that are pitched to us, we would like to have a playable build, which means by this point, developer has gone out there and they've, amongst themselves, they've, really tested out that prototype to see if it's engaging. And then once it's presented to us, we look at the prototype, the demo, alongside, the bigger plans, what the idea might be. And that's where we can get involved and it might be the case where we agree, wow, this is definitely something we want to work on. Or we might say the base, we see where you're coming from. We believe in the base, but have you thought about, going in this direction? Are you open to this?
Okay. All right. So once the agreement is signed and the idea is in there, the next phase will be actually having a working prototype and doing some CPI tests, like a cost per install tests. So what are the metrics for CPI tests, like for casual games? Let's say once the prototype is out. so that you can decide whether you would like to go ahead with this publishing or you will just go ahead and kill the game?
Yeah, so it will be so we wouldn't test out a prototype phase. This would be, let's say, external games publishing, where we sign up the game, we think it's it might not be the final product, but there's definitely enough in there for us to run a test and analyze at least up to day 15 or day 30 retention, which means really the game needs to have enough content. But when it comes to CPIs or any other type of marketing KPIs, this is very difficult to answer just because there are so many factors. It depends on the game genre, it depends on the channel, depends on the level of targeting. So you might have a casual game that's match 3, for instance, and you're targeting the US. That's already completely different profile to a platform runner game that you're targeting, doing generic targeting worldwide. Completely different profiles, completely different CPIs. You're looking at potentially $1 to $2 versus $5 to $10. So yeah, sorry, I can't be very helpful in this case.
I totally understand. I mean, as you mentioned, different genres, different countries, different channels like mediums, they all have different CPI.
Yeah,
like
and there
metrics,
are different. Yeah, and I forgot to add, there are also different seasonalities. We're approaching Christmas
Exactly.
right now. This is a very expensive time, or right after the IDFA changes, that was a very expensive time. So there are just so many factors. It's very hard to have, a template answer for each, for casual games versus mid-core games, for example.
Okay, decent enough. Thank you so much for that. And another thing that the studios are usually worried about is the retention, like gameplay. Once you have like the meta of the game, because retention plays a great role in terms of monetization. So, as a publisher, what would be your advice on like what are the things that studios should pay attention to when it comes to have a great retention in their games?
Yeah, so there's earlier retention and then there's later retention. For early retention, usually when we look at games and we see a pretty poor retention. Again, retention profile really varies by game type. But let's say for casual games where day 1 retention, you'd expect it to be between 35% to 45% or even 50%. That's really good. If we're looking at pretty poor retention, then instantly we would look at the first time user experience. For instance, you go into the game and instantly you need to create an account. That's an issue. That's an explanation as to why retention's low. There may not be a tutorial because the game is not that intuitive or easy. So you get people dropping off because they're not understanding. So there's a lot that you could do for early retention, just to make sure that that first time user experience is robust and clear. And then there's longer tail retention, so day 30 and beyond. And for this, what we do is offer new content, make sure that our players are continuously engaged. We have features like season pass, we have live tournaments, and also another very key thing for long tail retention is playing with friends, having social features. So if you're not directly playing with friends in PvP sessions, then at least you're able to connect with your friends. So this is super helpful, so that instead of you asking your players to come back into the game, your friends are doing that for you, for them. So yeah, I would say have some kind of social feature, multiplayer, lots of new content.
Yes, thank you so much. And I think we have one more question that's been asked live right now. And I believe, yes, here is the question. Thank you very much. Okay, I guess I lost the question. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Have you ever published a game developed by a single developer? Is it something you would consider? So, like solo developers, they usually tend to develop their own games. And would you work with what's your criteria in terms of working with studios? Do you accept like solo developers as a partner when it comes to publishing casual games?
Yeah, no, definitely, and we have in co-development especially, and we've gone on to make multiple games with these solo developers. Just like how we are pretty agnostic when it comes to where the game comes from, we're also agnostic as to the size of the team, as long as the team or the person has the capabilities to support development and support live operations. What we found in our partnerships with solo developers is that we take away as much of the workload. So for instance, art or QA and localization if it's needed, music, we try to take away as much as we can so that the developer is as focused as they can be. But what we also find is that we, eventually, because we are operating a live operations game, a free to play, we constantly need new content and improvements, that our solo developer partner tends to scale and, hire additional people to help support the game. But yes, to answer your question, we have worked with solo developers and there's absolutely no problem in continuing to do that.
Great. I guess the main hardship comes in when you start scaling your game. I mean, that's usually when you require like extra human resources
Yeah.
to do that. It's gonna be very hard for a solo developer to do that.
Yeah.
And one more question:
Mhm.
what are the I mean, you have an experience of working with many studios. What are the mistakes that you see in like studios? What are the typical mistakes that studios make while working with the publishers, and what are the things that they should pay attention to, and what are the things that they should avoid when they partner with publishers?
So what are the mistakes, and then what are so the first one is what are the mistakes, and
So the
what
first
are the
question is
things that they
what
should
are the
look out for?
mistakes? Yeah,
Mhm.
what are the typical mistakes that you see that studios make when they
Mhm.
work with publishers, and what are the things that they should pay attention to and avoid while working with the publishers?
Mhm. So the first thing, the thing that comes to my mind is the mistake is not having a very open, transparent discussion with the publisher a lot earlier on, which means the developer doesn't understand what the publisher's expectations are, and vice versa. Publisher doesn't understand what the developer's expectations are, and because you don't have this alignment as you start to work, or even when the game launches, but one or both parties are not happy. And I try, in all of my discussions, I try to have as much of an open and honest discussion, just to be very, very clear that in terms of responsibilities or how we operate, this is how it is. Are you happy with this? Does this match your work style? Does it meet your needs? So yeah, I would definitely say this is a mistake that you can make very early on. This shouldn't, prevent you from working with a publisher. You just need to have this kind of open discussion. And the second question was, what are the things that they should avoid?
Yes, well, I mean, once they have, let's say, once they have a partnership with the publisher, what are the things that they should pay attention to, and what are the things that they should avoid in order to have a healthy, partnership relationship with the publisher?
I would say one of the things, so maybe I'm changing the question a little. Instead of answering what should they avoid or what should they look out for, try to get as much insight and knowledge sharing from that partner. At Miniclip, we're very open, we're collaborative. Like I said, we go into our playbook. We, whichever game that we publish, we have our own proprietary analytics dashboard, which we share with our partners. So whatever data we have access to, it's our real time. Some data points are semi-real time. Whatever we have access to, our partners have access to this also. But not all publishers offer this. Not all publishers will disclose any data. So data is just one part, but knowledge sharing. Try to, you're working with a publisher. You want to understand as much as you can about the process of publishing your game. Otherwise, if you're not really getting anything, then you're not really growing yourself, right?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, that's one of the things that studios should pay attention to, I would say, as well, because the goal here is not just publish your game, but to learn as much as possible, because you want to, to develop other hits as well, and publishers are there to help you to do that. So you need to grow, and for that reason, you have to benefit from publishers. It should be a like win-win situation for both
Exactly.
sides. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it can't be like one-sided. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess we don't have any more questions from the audience. Yes, and I guess our time is up. It's been 40 minutes. Nahida, I want to thank you very much for taking your time and joining us today. And it was a great presentation. I personally learned a lot from your experience, and I hope other studios who are out there who want to publish their games, they also learned a lot. So thank you so much for joining us today, and everyone watching this, feel free to contact Miniclips in case you have a game to publish with them. They've been here for a long time. Just, they have a great experience, and they have a record. I would say they have a record in downloads in one of their games. So it's a perfect publisher. If you want to publish your games, feel free to contact them. Nahida, I would like to thank you once again, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I realized I didn't stay on that last page long enough to share my email address. So please feel free to share it around. If to anyone that's listening, if you have a game that you think is suitable for us, please do email me. Otherwise, if you just want to make a connection, have a chat, I'm super happy to do that also. So yeah, feel free to message me.
Yes, feel free to contact her with regards to any publishing related matters. Thank you so much, Nahida,
Okay,
for your
you.
time, and have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.